Hello there. Welcome back to the Schools of Excellence podcast. I love the conversation we're going to have today. I love this conversation because I think if we play this conversation on repeat and had different versions of this conversation more and more and more, I think leaders would feel, my God, so much safer in leadership and relationships. Because I think leaders really want to hold standards. I think they want to create cultures of excellence deeply, but they don't know how to do it without losing themselves in the process. And there is a belief that lives inside of early childhood leadership that sounds like if you're loving, if you're supportive, then you'll definitely be able to, get the things that you need inside of the organization. So there's kind of this narrative that's like, if I'm warm enough, if I soften my tone enough, if I explain it again, if I give them another chance, if I make it easier, if I take away the discomfort, if I keep everyone comfortable, then of course, they're going to grow, right? I literally took away every possible obstacle for them. They don't say this out loud, but you live this. And on the surface, it looks like good leadership. You're empathetic, you're available, you care deeply, your heart is in the right place. And that's why the pattern's really difficult to see. But there's a mirror that I want to hold gently, because this is where strong, independent, high-achieving leaders get stuck. Warmth does not create growth. It doesn't. In fact, when warmth isn't connected with standards and consequence, it turns into emotional management and emotional labor. So it sounds like something like this. There is a conversation that you need to have. But instead of having the conversation, you rehearse the conversation 1,000 times and find every possible place that you can soften it. And you soften it so much that the standard disappears. Or you notice the same behavior keeps happening again and again. And instead of holding the standard, you're like, I'm just going to train them one more time. I just need to tell them one more time. I'm just going to train them one more time. I'm just going to give them one more chance. I see the behavior, but, she's had a really difficult time and her husband was out of town and she was sick and her daughter wasn't well and the flu came in, and you figure out every reason why you have to go train them again. You feel the tensions rising and you smooth it over so you can soothe yourself and that no one else has to feel uncomfortable. So you explain, you rephrase, you reassure, and afterwards you feel unbelievably exhausted, even though nothing changed. Nothing bad happened, but nothing good happened. School leadership has blurred some really important lines. Empathy has become permission. Kindness has replaced clarity and precision. Support has turned into self-soothing and soothing of the other person. And softness gets mistaken for safety. So there's no real connection going on. It's all over functioning. And what happens is the owner keeps doing more. The team does less. Discomfort gets avoided. And growth stalls. Nothing moves. If you find yourself keep saying, I'll say it gently, I need to make sure they're okay first. I need to make sure they're on the same page. I need to make sure everyone's on the same team. I need to get buy-in. I don't want to discourage her. I'm going to rewrite the SOP. I'm just going to handle it this time. You're not creating safety. You're containing adults and emotionally soothing them instead of developing them. And it's not because weak leaders are doing this. It's because warmth is a shield. It is a shield. It is a way to avoid conflict, discomfort, being disliked, being misunderstood, holding consequences. And so the team stays comfortable and unchanged. Children grow through co-regulation. Adults go through boundaries and consequences. Adults do not grow when things are easy. They grow when they hit a standard, when they feel resistance, when they feel friction and tension, when they have to sit in discomfort and discover a capacity they didn't know they had. That is what moves the person forward. And so where leaders get stuck is they loop on, I'm going to say it better. I'm going to soften it more. I'm going to be more patient. Adults do not grow or rise because obstacles are removed. They rise because the right obstacles remain. You can support, you can care, you can love deeply. you cannot carry them past the very discomfort that helps them grow. Because what you constantly send the message is, you don't have to change. I'll change for both of us. You don't have to change. I'll change for both of us. That's how leaders burn out. That's how teams underfunction. And that's how culture looks calm and quietly stagnates until it erupts. So how do we change this, right? What do we do? We install consequences. Consequence is not punishment. Consequence is predictable safety. When leaders avoid giving consequences, what the team actually experiences is uncertainty, because they actually don't know, does this matter today? Like, if I don't do it, will it matter today or will it not? I don't know. Will it slide tomorrow? Does the standard depend on her mood or how tired she is or how motivated she is? Do I actually need to change? Do I need to push myself and do this, or is she just going to do it again? That ambiguity is exhausting for you and your team, because predictable safety doesn't come from warmth. It comes from knowing what happens if the standard slips or what happens next. And a consequence is very simple. You're not firing people. It's a pre-decided response when a standard isn't upheld. It's a pre-decided response when a standard isn't upheld. So it's not reactive. It's not emotional. It's clear. So what changes when consequences become consistent or a rhythm, and I talk about this in my book, This Can't Be Normal. I have a chapter called Consequence Isn't Punishment, It's Predictable Safety, and I teach about the rhythm of consequence. When there are consequences, people stop second guessing because they know what's going to happen. Emotional labor drops. Trust starts to increase because the system holds the standards, not the leader's nervous system. So warmth constantly says, I want to take care of you. I want to take care of you. I want to take care of you. Consequence says, I want to take care of you within the standard. And when the two live together, something powerful happens. Adults rise. Not because they're scared, not because they're being pushed, but because the environment is steady enough to grow. Without consequence, warmth turns into overfunctioning. Okay. So being warm and kind opens the door, and it's important to be loving and kind. Discomfort does the work. Consequences is what makes the work possible without fear, without chaos, without you carrying everything alone. And I go into this in great depth inside of my book. I teach this inside of Leadership HQ to our leaders. We have consistent calls and conversations around standards and consequence. If you're interested in a private consult on how to install standards and consequences inside of your school, you can also shoot us an email, cw@chanie.me. We also do some private consults on that as well. This is a massive hinge and missing link inside of a lot of schools on what do I do when teachers consistently come late? What do I do when people aren't hitting specific standards? Do I even know what my standards are when it comes to enrollment? What are my standards about financials? What are our standards around profit? What are our standards around staffing, around parent, around communication, around enrollment, around tours? What are the standards? Do people even know what the expectations are, what they should be hitting? And what happens if they don't hit it predictably? And what happens when the pattern of behavior shows that they keep choosing not to do it? It's not that they can't do it. It's they're not willing to do it because there's no consequence for it. And this requires a lot of nuance. And it's why I don't dive into it in depth on a podcast or whatever it is. I wrote about it in my book in depth. I do it in coaching calls because it requires nuance. A consequence for one person can't be the same consequence for someone who's been in your center for 25 years and knows something and has a pattern of doing this for a year and a half already. They need a very different consequence than someone who's 19 who just walked into the building. This is a first offense, right? There's different consequences, and you cannot outsource this to HR. Okay, HR is about policy. It's about things that keep you from being sued. Consequence, standards, and predictable safety are about creating the humanity inside of your culture and your organization. That's a totally different thing. Okay. And so if this episode felt like being witness and recognition and not criticism, like that's the edge where good leaders keep growing, because they recognize like, oh, I can give a consequence without shaming someone. I can give a consequence without belittling this person, right? And I wrote This Can't Be Normal for these school leaders. I don't want you to become colder. I don't want you to become harsher. I want you to lead with your warmth and standards, empathy and consequence, care without collapsing, because you don't need to become less human. You need to stop being the container for every single person to be able to emotionally dump on you. So if today's conversation resonated, good. If you felt witness, welcome. And I want to invite you to purchase my book, This Can't Be Normal. You could buy wherever books are sold. The link is in the show notes as well. You could go to thiscan'tbenormal.com. And my invitation to you in this moment, if you're feeling this real resistance around consequence, is just ask yourself, why does consequence feel harsh to me? Why do I feel that installing a consequence, what am I afraid might happen? What am I afraid the impact or the consequence to me might be for installing a consequence? And you don't need to answer everything right away, right? Not like one of the things that I specifically encourage leaders when I'm having conversations with them is sometimes an insight is just that. It's an insight. It's a moment. You don't need to solve it right away. You don't need to create your 20-step plan and your 50-page slide deck. Just sit with that. Like, I have a new perspective on consequence. Consequence isn't punishment. It's predictable safety. Interesting. What would it look like if there was predictable safety in my company? What would it look like if I had clear standards and clear consequences for different things inside of my center? What would it look like if I had predictable rhythms of safety to create connection and presence and attunement to my team? This is a whole new way of leading. You're not going to figure this out in one day. The whole point of this is return. It is not something that you install once and then set it and forget it. This is not passive. It is active, connected leadership. So thanks so much for joining me today. Thanks for joining this conversation. Click the link in the show notes. You can get This Can't Be Normal. And I hope you enjoy it. Hey there. If you're the one who notices problems before anyone else does, this is for you. You're the one who sees things first. The tension in the room, the teacher sleeping who just might quit. You're already tracking the consequences. Who will be upset? Who will push back? So even on days that look fine or feel calm, your body doesn't fully stand down. You go to sleep tired and you wake up already bracing. Not because today is chaotic or any day is chaotic, but because something could go wrong. And you know you'll be the one that's holding it. It's the responsibility that can sometimes feel crushing. You stay alert, reliable, and steady because you've seen what happens when things aren't held, when communications slip, when standards soften, when everyone assumes someone else will step in. And because you're so good at holding it, more of it finds its way to you, quietly, gradually, until no one sees how heavy it's become. This is not burnout. And this is not a discipline problem. It's what I call the invisible weight of leadership. If you see yourself in this, or even if your breath changed just a little bit, that's enough. And if you want to keep going and learn more, the opening chapter of my book, This Can't Be Normal, What to Do When Success Starts to Feel Like Survival. My book continues this conversation. You can go ahead and download chapter 1 for free and continue this dialogue. If you are loving the Schools of Excellence podcast and have gotten any value out of it for your school, I would love if you can do two things for me. 1, subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. And 2, can you please leave us a review? Reviews help other school leaders know that this is the place to learn how to build a school of excellence. And I would be so grateful if you can do that for us. Your help and support makes this show to be able to be listened by the thousands of other school leaders all around the world. Thanks so much for listening, for giving us your time and attention each and every week, and I appreciate that you have joined us.